if you just switch the conversation up a little bit, how can they get mad at you? How can they be like, oh, Shondel's so mean? Oh my gosh. Like with that, like all of these things, man, like why would they get upset with you about helping them become financially independent, changing their families' lives, all of those things, right? It's almost impossible because nobody in the world is doing that for them. Nobody. So at the end of the day, if they don't understand that you're trying to help them become financially independent, they're probably not the right person, right? So that is huge, guys, huge. Think about this in your business. Who did you sell the dream to last week? Who did you talk to? And if you're not selling the dream on a regular basis, number one, Bruce said that every time you do that, you're giving yourself fire. You're reselling it to yourself. So the more times you do it, you should be getting more and more jacked up. No matter whatever they think after you do it, you should feel better. But you also got to constantly do that to your team and monetize it. What does financially independent mean to you? It's going to be different for everybody. People have different goals, different lifestyles that they want, different things that they want to accomplish, buying their parents a home, things like that. So those are different things. You got to monetize it and teach your team how to monetize it so they can see. And then from the big picture, they can break down what they need to do on a small scale. And the daily grind is no longer a daily grind because that small price that you're paying is going to make a major impact on the bigger picture that you're going to have later on. So that's huge, guys. All right, so Josh is going to talk about some examples here that we've seen within the business regarding a couple things that we discussed today.
That's an incredible breakdown of call from a guy that last month made $110,000 last month. And it's repetitive, but if you're not on the double-digit recruiting call, guys, you're not squeezing as much juice as you possibly can from this opportunity. So examples, you know, they said when they first created Primerica, the founders, that all we owe people, and it's not even just in Primerica, it's in life, all you're owed is two things, is an opportunity and an example. And we have plenty. And there's really two ways that you can get to financial independence, and that's through the long way or the shorter, efficient way. The long way is getting your money to work for you, investing hundreds of dollars on a monthly basis into a aggressive mutual fund with a high return. That's the 20 to 30 year game plan to financial independence. The 3-year game plan will change your life. At a bare minimum, you'll earn $10,000 to $20,000 a month, becoming a regional vice president with the necessary amount of licenses in your organization. But if you promote people to become regional vice presidents, in 5 to 7 years, you'll be done. You'll never have to write another transaction in your life. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give external examples from our organization, but internal examples are Shaq, Samir. These guys don't have to write another transaction as long as they live and they have ownership over their business, meaning there's a value behind it, meaning they can sell it for a profit if they wanted to, or pass it down to their kids. Whether they do something or not is irrelevant at this point. So if you can conceptualize 5 years in your life, that's 60 months of your life. That's it, 60 months of core, fundamental, determined focus. You'll be done. The job will be done. You guys have jobs now And generally you can't leave or move on to another task until the job is done at your job. Well, the job here to be done is to create financial independence for your family's lives and your lives. But an external example that recent, I mean, it's just mind boggling. There's actually a few. I'm gonna use a few here. There is a couple down in Georgia that Lelix and I reached out to through Instagram, under the Santabrias, who are $1 million earners right now in Georgia. They have somebody else who's a SVP who's at $900,000 of income as well, Carlos Leon. And in Carlos's organization, you have this couple that we reached out to last year. No, not even. When did we reach out to them? 5 months ago. Their income was at 80,000 of rolling 12 income. Today, and I look because she told this to me because she DMs the wife on a regular basis. I had to look it up on POL because I just could not believe it. And Yoda says that's why I fail, because I don't believe. Right? But I had to figure it out because I couldn't believe it. Guys, they're at 350,000 of income in 5 months later. So then I started dissecting competition scoreboard and how the heck they did it. And I mean, it made sense. Through the bonuses, the amount of people they've licensed, and their personal production is pretty high, 13,000 a month. They're literally 24 months away from being done. It can happen so freaking fast if you just make a decision. And I'm speaking to myself, as well. That's one example. Willie Naranjo was in 2013, I believe, at 300,000 of income, where Samir currently is. 7 years later, and that was him actively producing. 7 years later, he's increased his income by 10x his income, $3 million a year. Now, the funny thing is, example, okay, he's got 3 million, an income of 3 million. Guess how many licenses he's got in his base shop and through his first generation regional vice presidents? 3,000. Everything's proportionate. 3,000 licenses, $3 million income. 6 years ago, there was a guy who was working in a Mexican restaurant selling burritos. And he felt awful because at the end of the day, he said, I don't think this is why God put me on earth to sell burritos. You might be saying if you work for the government, I don't think this is why God put me on earth to work for the government. If you work retail, maybe I don't think this is why God put me on this earth to work retail and fold clothes all day. Nothing against folding clothes, but you can do that at home. There's more profound ways and helpful ways to the marketplace to make a difference and make a whole lot more money for you and your family. And this guy realized that, recognized that in the Mexican restaurant he was working at. 6 years later, guys, he was at 500,000 of income. 500,000. That was in January of this year. 1 month ago, he clicked over $1 million a year of income. So in a year, he increased his income by 500,000. It took the first 5 years to get there. It took the very next year to double that to $1 million a year. Guess how many licenses he has in his organization? 1,200, and he just clicked over 1.1 million. 1,200, 1.1 million, which means the next 100,000 is not far behind. Everything is proportionate to your licensing, which comes from recruiting, which comes from deciding to become a recruiter. And then you've got Omar Oropesa, which Miguel and Willie came from. They just have a lineage of winners. Winners. And it all stems from that mantra, which is licensing. Omar Oropesa, like clockwork, earns $1.7 million per year. And through, now he has way more licenses than 1,700. I think he has close to 3,000, but they're just not in his base shop or any of his first generation vice president's base shop. Through his organization and his first generate, all his RVPs direct to him, he has 1,800 licensed people, 1,800. And go figure, like clockwork, he earns anywhere from 1.6 to 1.9 million a year. I want to end on this as an example. I've given external examples, but internally, I want to come back to Samir, something that I recognize that I didn't mention earlier. Looking at virtual base shop, that month I was mentioning where Samir, his base shop generated 40 sales, 40 transactions in August. I was looking at how many people actually had something to do with that 40,000 of production. That month he made somewhere between 40 and 50,000 because he didn't just do 40,000 of life insurance production. His organization also did 600,000 of investments volume as well. So he made like 45, 46 grand, and none of it was him, by the way, like production, life insurance or investments. On the life insurance side, from the 40,000 of production, Sheila, Shondel, Shondel and Mike, Josh and Lelix, Lori and Morgan, 5 people contributed to 40,000 in production. On the security side, Josh and Lelix, Sheila, Shondel and Mike, that's it. 3. 5 and 3. This thing does not take 100 or thousands of people to make $45,000 in a month. But to make it consistent, you have to keep your foot on the gas pedal for recruiting and licensing through the masses, guys. Duplication and distribution is your friend. And if you focus on everything that we've gone through thus far, you can change your life in 3 years, but you'll be done in 60 months by 2025.
Awesome, guys. So hopefully you guys were taking a lot of notes. I think I always get so jacked up after we talk about Bruce's call. So number one, Double Digit Recruit, get on that call. But if you guys have any questions about anything, type them in the chat. We have a couple minutes here before we all get to appointment setting blitzes with our teams. But any questions that you guys have for us? No questions.
So let me ask
There
you,
we go.
I have a question. No, the Bruce Cook call, is it recorded by any chance? That's like a great calls right there.
We're not
right.
allowed to send it out.
Yeah, he does, but you have to be on the call to get it.
Gotcha,
So,
I mean, fair enough. So you have to have a 10 recruits to get in, right?
yeah,
For on the RVP.
correct. Right. So get somebody
Just
on your
10
team to do
recruits.
it. Yeah, just 10. Get someone on your team to do it, then they'll get the calls for you.
Javon, you heard? I know he can do it. All right, guys, thank you so much. It was a great call, really amazing.
No problem, guys. No problem. All right. Oh, we got one. Yes. How to keep teammates encouraged in the licensing process. So you got to keep the big picture in front of their minds. We've had people on our team take the exam multiple times and still have not passed. So you just got to keep people motivated, keep them surrounded, just be encouraged with the team and tell them, hey, don't worry. Maybe give them examples of other people in the organization. Like, for example, I don't remember what the exact number is, but Shay and T in the business now is killing it, but they didn't pass their exams the first time or right away. I think it was multiple times. So sometimes you just give them stories, examples. And if you don't know a story, ask an upline. Hey, I have a teammate. They're kind of a little discouraged now. What can I say? I ask all the time. So that's great. I think Jen has something too.
Yeah, I remember Bruce said in one of the long time ago double-digit calls. I don't know, Shondel and Josh, if you remember this, but Bruce said something along the lines of, the only way people lose is if they don't stay in the field, right? They got to keep being in the field. I mean, and back to what Shondel, to piggyback on that, our team alone has had people take the exam. Not saying it's good or bad, but some people, they just don't study that well and don't comprehend the material that well. Maybe they don't have studying background in school or didn't really do good in high school, whatever. But some people on our team have taken the exam 10 times. You know, how do we keep them motivated? We kept them in the field because they kept seeing what we do for people, and then they kept seeing other examples in the environment as well. So it's a mix between environment and QAs, to piggyback on Shondel.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Josh?
Yeah, I think the only thing, whether it's licensing or anything you want to help someone stay motivated in, something I heard Bruce say on an audio a long time ago. He has an audio that he did called "That's the Way It Is," and he said, he said when things got hard, some people in Primerica would look at the newspaper to look at help wanted section, the help wanted section. We don't do that because we're not looking at newspapers anymore, right? But you might not look at the help wanted in the newspaper. You might go on LinkedIn and list your resume. I got to get a job. Help want, whenever I looked at the help wanted section, or I looked for a better alternative, I realized there's not one. What are you going to do? Go back to $10, $20 an hour? Can you pass that down to your kids? No. So if there's not a better alternative, no matter whether you're having issues passing a test, getting a recruit, licensing somebody, promoting somebody, making $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, no matter what it is, there's just not a better alternative to figuring it out and sticking it out. 60 minutes of your life for $10 is disrespectful to your family. Yeah, that's 15 cents a minute. You can find that in the corner of your couch. Yeah, for real. I mean, so there's no better alternative to ownership.
Right. So awesome, guys. Hopefully this was helpful. It will be recorded and up on YouTube, so listen to it over and over. Go motivate your teams with the macro, the big picture, and then continue to break it down on a daily basis on the micro, guys. Thanks so much for getting on. We got a couple weeks left before Christmas, so crank it out, get a lot of things done. Thanks, guys.